No doubt they all hope to ace it here in Race 2 for the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup Series. I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is former sports car racer Joey Atterbury. Joey, class is in session, so what's the cliff notes on Sebring?
Well, it is bumpy, and it is a very, very fast racetrack. Let's briefly take a look at the track map, a 3.74-mile, 17-turn facility, and we are actually going to get going straight into our grid because, Joe, guess what? We have nearly 40 of these 992 class cars.
Indeed we do, and Carl Stout is once again going to be starting on the pole with Riley Giacomazzi starting from second. David Musial Jr. will be P3, followed by Matt Siegel in the fourth position. Matt Smith, our winner from the Masters yesterday, starts from P5. Tony Melito will be in sixth. Then it's Todd Trefford in seventh. He'll be flanked by Brandon Hankins, his outside in eighth, Jansen in ninth, and Blake McGovern will round out our top 10.
In 11th, it's going to be Bill Fennick, followed up with Luke French in 12th, and Mark Bowden starting from Fall Line Motorsports in 13th, with Chris Hutter in 14th. Dave Musial going to be starting in 15th, with Elaine Scalzo next to him in 16th. Matt Dusek rolling off from 17th in a CHR machine, with Frank Vitiello in 18th. Dan Ammon and Patrick Womack are going to round out row number 10.
Shane Leathers will start from 21st with Grady Willingham to his outside. Javier Ripoll Jr. then is on the inside of row 12. It'll be Keith McGovern starting in 24th, Alessandro Chiacchetti in 20th, and Sean McCaig in 26th. Next row sees Scott Neal to the inside in 27th, and Stephen DePaolo in 28th. It is John Gardner starting from the 29th position, and Michael Cobb starting from 30th. After that, it is Greg Shermer in 31st, Troy Monte in 32nd, and Steven Schmitz in 33rd, with Francisco de Jesus starting 34th, Nicholas Groombridge in 35th, and Joel Johnson in 36th. Eric Lapp rounding out our 37-car field. Just about to the back straightaway here, Joey. And just to complicate things, we hear there's possibly a little raindrops over that way.
It has been kind of a mixed weather weekend. It's been beautiful here in Central Florida, about mid-80s ambient temperature. However, you do see a cloud cover, and on specific parts of this racetrack, you got to remember, Sebring is a sprawling racetrack. It's not very confined, so we can get some weather popping up in some areas and be completely opposite in others. We'll just have to keep an eye on it, and after all, everybody's in the same boat.
Exactly, and they do not have live pit stops in this series, so it won't be a call of when to go onto the wets other than race control's call. So they will stop the race and determine it's a wet race, ask everybody to stop in order, and put on those rain tires. We'll see if it comes to that or not, as the safety car is out of the final corner.
Yeah,
but it looks like we're doing an extra pace lap. Maybe, possibly because of that weather, I wonder.
I think that's probably what this is for. So you see the pace car lights still on as they cross start-finish here. And I'm curious, no, the clock does not start yet. So this is not the start of the race. We're going to do 2 pace laps. And usually race control will do this to kind of feel out the racetrack just in case there is that weather in the area.
Yes, and if they haven't started the clock, this may have been planned then. So yeah, it sounds like this is a plan. This is not due to the weather. This is just to give the drivers that one extra lap to get ready, and then they will line up and go next time by out there. Last race, it was basically the Carl Stout show up at the front. Kind of ran away with things, but sounds like the drivers are hungry for today. I'm more curious, I think, about that Masters category, Joey, because Smith started out kind of falling back, and then he stopped the bleeding. Has anybody seen that blood in the water and is ready to strike?
I think that there's plenty of fast Masters class cars out there. Same thing with the Pro-Am cars, but I think while we still have just a minute here, we could probably take a look at that track map if we have it available. And here it is, Central Florida Sebring International Raceway, 17 turns, 3.74 miles. Where we just saw the cars, they were down there at hairpin turn number 7. That's our best passing area on this entire racetrack because it has the biggest brake zone. Look out for Cunningham Corner and Tower Turn. Those are turn 10 and turn 13. They are both tricky on the brake zones going in, so you really have to balance the car. And then the far end of the circuit, turn 15 and turn 16, It is so low grip, and here in Florida, it's flat, but there is just a tiny, tiny bit of elevation that can upset the balance of the cars going out onto the Ullman Straight. And then to round out the lap at Sebring, who can forget Sunset Bend in turn 17?
Long up around here, 2+ minutes, even in these GT3 Cup cars. This is the 992 Cup cars that are racing here today. Of course, the 992.2 being premiered in the Carrera Cup North America Series, but we will get those fun toys coming 2027, and I'm sure the drivers are eager to get their hands on them. But for now, it is the previous generation out racing today. The two classes are your Masters and your Pro-Am. There's no difference between those cars. There is just the difference between the driver licenses. Man, some of the clouds in the background do look foreboding here.
I mean, I'm looking out of our commentary booth here on the front straightaway, and the wind is blowing as a headwind towards turn number 1. So it'll be interesting to see these clouds kind of come over the racetrack. But I mean, even directly here in front of us, we have some massively growing clouds.
Exactly. And, well, the race control will stop the race to determine whether or not it is a wet race. You still have to deal with it until it reaches that point. So there are going to be some moist meisters, as I've heard them called sometimes, that will come to the fore if they can handle those changeable conditions until it is deemed a fully wet race. Everybody now getting stacked up double file as those two beautiful columns make their way around Sunset Bend. This time, safety car will release the fields. And what will it look like into turn 1? Stout has control. He waits for the call from the stand. Last sprint challenge race of the weekend. And as he gets on the accelerator, there is the green flag. It's down into turn 1, so close for second, third, and fourth. And coming up around the outside, Matt Siegel trying to overtake Musial Jr. as Giacomosi is going to go on the attack. Long way around to turn 1. Can't get it away from our pole sitter. He'll slot back in line.
And now we all race down towards turn 3, and Riley's really forcing the issue around the outside. No room given there on the outside of the racetrack. He was forced into the grass. Now he's back on the track through turn number 5 and accelerating down into turn number 7. This is a race for the lead.
Riley probably knows the pace that he saw yesterday. It's going to be crucial for him to make that pass early, flashing the headlights, not appreciative of the 243, kind of running him out of road there a little bit as they head through turn 7. Not as aggressive this time. Single file for the most part behind.
It was an aggressive move down in turn number 3, and you see Riley still on full attack. He feels like he was probably wrong done there, and now he's just trying to get around Carl Stout. And if you ask me, yeah, usually you want to give a little bit of room to your competitors, but Stout, a fierce competitor, and he wanted that lead.
Coming down into Tower Turn, he is still hassling him at just about every corner. It looks like Siegel managed to get by Musial, and so did Melito. So Musial losing 2 positions at the start, falling down to 5th. Matt onto the podium. This is about a second behind the top 2. Despite their battling, they've run away just a bit.
And remember, we're still on lap number 1, so everybody's still coming to grip with the conditions. And I mean, look at that. Do you see the windshield wipers, Joe? I think we do have some moisture in the area. Carl Stout on the back foot coming off of turn number 16. Giacomosi trying to sit in the slipstream.
I mean, it feels like it from some of the camera shots, too. It's hard to tell if those are raindrops or spray that we're seeing, but we're getting word that it is indeed raining on part of the track. My goodness, we have quite a bit of action here at the beginning. And now they come back to the dry portion of the circuit to complete lap 1. Your pole sitter Stout still up at the front. Smith still leads in Masters class in 6th position. We're on board with Brandon Hankins, who sits 9th overall, and that might change position as he's challenged around the outside by the 275 of Luke French.
Luke French trying to get aggressive here, and I don't see too much moisture on the windscreen in this area. Oh, well, here we go. It's proven me wrong. It is coming in from our right side to the left side. So right now you can see the drivers dealing with those mixed conditions, and at least they've got some tire temperature in these wonderful Yokohama tires. If this was on the outlap, we'd be a little bit more tricky for sure.
Still, wow, this is quite a test for our drivers today. They are going to have to be on tiptoes out there. Brandon Hankins seen everybody just going back and forth, trying to slalom their way into position down at turn 7, because they don't know what the grip is going to be like in these heavy braking zones.
And that's what each driver has to feel out. And like I was saying, thankfully, we've got some tire temperature already, and there it is, full course yellow flag. I do not see any accidents on the racetrack. I think this is purely down to the weather.
Now, I believe this should turn into a red flag. We heard that there may have been an accident in turn 1, and the red flag is solely so that drivers will be brought into pit lane to change tires. But I can look out our window and tell you that our corner workers and our flag people are buttoning down the hatches. It is extremely windy right now and very wet as it is chucking it down out on the circuit. So this will shorten the race a little bit, but we'll see what it looks like after this as we get an incredible welcome from Mother Nature here in race 2.
It's a variable. I mean, and it's incredible how fast this weather actually moved in. We've been kind of mentioning the wind direction, right? And maybe that it was a little bit more swirling today. But I mean, we just walked back from the paddock, not even 10 minutes ago.
Bright and sunny.
Bright and sunny, beautiful day, mid-80s, and then all of a sudden here from Chris Hutter's onboard, you can see it tells a different story.
Like a Florida hurricane, unfortunately. But it's not looking like...
Literally, look at this.
Wow. It is not fun looking down at Jean Debienne there on their way in. Thankfully, they're not moving at pace.
And I'm so happy that we got that lap of racing in and our 2 warm-up laps, because I can't reiterate enough. See, there goes one car spinning, hydroplaning right now, and if we did not have the tire temperature in these Yokohamas, it would be so treacherous for these drivers. So I'm so happy we at least got those couple of early laps underway.
I wondered if anybody would fall victim to that, because yes, they are going slowly, but for those that aren't familiar with how it works in racing, these are slick tires, and when you hit a puddle of water, there's no place for that water to go.
That's the best way to put it, right? We have treads on streetcar tires for a reason, to channel that water out from underneath the tire, because if you just have surface and then water and then tire, you're going hydroplaning.
A little surprised they have not brought them in. I wonder if they were just kind of waiting.
That would be my guess, is if the cell is not very big, which, I mean, we're already getting sunshine on the front straightaway, to see if it just simply moves through versus changing tires. But this is a lot of rain.
Yeah,
there's another spin.
Chiacchetti, a very slow, lazy spin. Has to go through the mud a little bit to get back on the circuit. Everybody is going to be on just hooks out there, trying to ease their way around this treacherous situation.
The other thing that completely, kind of blew over our head is, I mean, we have to gather up the field. We have to gather them up behind the safety car, so they had to do that lap. We had to get the safety car out. So this is process. I mean, this is just kind of how it goes.
And they shouldn't be too far apart, but with how slow they're moving, it might take a little bit for them to actually pack up behind that safety car. And we're actually hearing that it's coming down worse now, potentially. Somebody has ironically not turned off the sprinklers in front of us. They're still watering all of the grass out there, but I don't think they need to today.
No, I was just noticing that as well, as we're on board here with Frank Vitiello. I think this is a great shot with all these in-car cameras. Look at the throttle, right? I mean, barely even 20%, and look at this red flag because of the conditions on the racetrack right now. I think that was an easy call.
Yeah, it definitely the right call in this situation. And as I said, this eats up some of our time. It is sprint challenge, so unfortunately we won't get as much racing as we'd like, but hopefully if they can get everybody with rain tires on them and then send them back out, we can go racing. But of course we have to see what condition the track is in, because even if they have rain tires on, if there's too much standing water, you can't go racing. So it's always a safety thing that everybody has to consider?
I think we're getting a great example of how much water has come down. So here at Sebring, we've got this wonderful start-finish building where all the garages are. This is where the usual race control commentary booth is, and we literally have waterfalls coming off of the top of the building right now because of how much it has rained in, 8 minutes?
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing here is, if this just kind of sprinkles, they maybe could have carried on a little bit, but the fact that it came down all at once, the water has to go somewhere. And unfortunately, it's usually going to collect in the same places, which means it's a little bit too difficult to go racing pretty much immediately. So far, so good since we last saw that half spin from Chiacchetti. Everybody, from what we've been seeing on screen, has been keeping it pointed forward, which is half the battle here today. And we should be seeing them lining up in front of us in pit lane pretty shortly here. So, unfortunately, with the red flag, I believe the clock is going to carry on since we are on a strict schedule with a lot of series out here this weekend.
I love these onboards. I know we're limited right now, and I know we're under red flag conditions, but there's no way to really describe how slippery it is out there in these conditions. I mean, look at this, 38 miles an hour, and just trying to slow down the car as gently as possible to try to get around these corners. And if you're familiar with driving on snow, this is exactly what it would be like. However, it is mid-80s outside. You just don't have any front grip at all. You turn the wheel, it doesn't want to turn. If you even breathe on the gas, all of a sudden it has wheel spin on the back end. So, if anything, these are more treacherous conditions than having a snow-packed racetrack, because a snow-packed racetrack is at least predictable.
I can't say I've seen too many snow-packed racetracks in my career.
I've qualified in hail before.
Oh, wow.
I've been in Daytona when it's been snowing. It's happened.
By the way, it is a bit of a moot point, but I do have confirmation from race control. All cars to pit box permitted to change tires and make other adjustments. That to me says it has been officially deemed a wet race. That said, is it actually still raining right now? Because I don't see rain. Oh, okay, I'm looking at the puddles. I do see a few in front of us. There's slight rain coming down, but it is far minor compared to before. Still, I can't imagine anybody's going to like to stay on the dry tires, and we should see what hopefully should be a fun end to this one.
And here's the strategy aspect, all right? If it's going to be declared a wet race, yeah, you should go on wet tires. I'm sure that they have the option, potentially, to stay on dry tires if they wanted to, if that's a competitor decision or not. But this comes to my strategy point. We're under red. The clock is still rolling. You're not going to dry this racetrack in time to really see the benefit of full dry tires.
Good point.
I have a feeling that everybody is going to put the wet tires on, and once we actually do get it refired, I mean, I expect, about 15 minutes of racing or so, call it about 5 to 7 minutes here, and then the cars have to dry out the racetrack.
There you see the teams, I guess, getting some early practice for later today, or later this weekend, rather, I should say. The Porsche Endurance Challenge having their first race of 2026 here at Sebring, and that will have live pit stops. Granted, there will be a minimum pit stop time, but practice was supposed to be for later today for the pit stops for those teams, and a bunch of them getting just maybe a bit of earlier than they expected to get that under their belts.
I'm happy to see everybody going extremely slow on pit lane. So we always say, yeah, low grip, low grip, low grip. However, think about how much rubber is laid down in each one of those pit stalls from a car launching out, right? And rubber and water is extremely slippery. It is so easy to slide through your pit box, even at 7 miles an hour. So I really enjoy seeing these drivers tiptoe their way down.
Yeah, making sure to take care. I mean, we could see as
it's shiny. Look at how shiny it is.
Yeah, from that shot, and I could see the cars as they went through the wetness, how much of the water was being sprayed to the sides. Yeah, we'll see it here with this most recent car.
It's great. The cloud is clearing off of the front straight. Look, we got sunshine on the bottom of the screen. We still got cloud cover on the top of the screen, but it is slowly disappearing.
It is, and they should put them back into the order that they had when they came into the pits. I'm not sure if they will allow cars who spun to retake their positions. We'll see if I can get information on that, but we have someone up at the front there having a little bit of trouble getting into their pit stall.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm talking about with if you do slide through it. Now, I think that this issue is just because everybody's stacked up already.
Angled, yeah.
So, it can be difficult with the limited steering angle that the race cars do have to kind of get it in there. But I was just kind of making a silly joke. I see the drone out there, but the drone can't see us. It needs to go down to the start-finish a little bit more to look in the windows here.
Yes, a shout out to our Yokohama blimp pilot for being basically our eyes out there, because obviously once it starts coming down, our camera ops do have to take shelter a little bit. So we kind of had to rely on a lot of these images as well as some of the still cameras that are placed around the track itself.
And also the wonderful onboards with GPX
Yes.
and whatnot. GPX is a huge part of all of the onboard systems and the data telemetry. So when we do have these weather events, it's great to have all of those GPX systems up and available.
Well, and really showed us, like you were saying, what the driver sees in this situation. People who have driven in their road cars in heavy rain have at least some inkling, but it's probably quite a bit more frightening when you're in a race car and that happens, because it's not set up for this sort of thing.
Not one bit. But thankfully, this entire USAC team has seen every single condition at a racetrack before. Race control is always on top of keeping all of our competitors safe, making sure all the cars are safe out there. And this was 100% the right call to do. To have these cars out there in race conditions on slick tires, I have a feeling it would have spelled trouble.
No doubt, no doubt. There was way too much moisture for any hope to stay out on the track itself. And in fact, we do have a safety vehicle, it looks like, coming down the main straight, maybe just kind of seeing what condition.
That's a track dryer if I've ever seen one.
Might be.
I'm being facetious, but he's running the track. He's drying it out, and if you've ever been around race cars, the best way to dry a track is to get out there and run on it.
Yes, and I don't think that truck will really do a whole lot. Just
need about 20 more of them.
Definitely. So we wait patiently for our drivers to get going. They'll get the call from race control probably, and they'll release them one by one to get them back into the right order. Obviously, they did have to come to their pit stalls, so that jumbles things up once again, as that is not organized in any fashion according to qualifying or anything such. So, but they've got all the tools probably to make that one happen. Since we got a chance, I did get some neat information on Carl Stout, our winner from yesterday's race and our leader before we came to this halt today, that Carl actually quite a young competitor. I think he just got into his first Porsche about a year ago, I read, and he was 14 at the time. He's now 15 years old, has already won a Sprint Challenge North America race here in the 992. So he is on his way, it seems like, with a lot of speed at a very young age.
That's always what you like to see. I feel like the young kids that come up in this sport, they're always aggressive, and it's a matter of kind of taming that aggression, but also keeping the speed, right? The aggression is what makes that speed. And from what we've seen this weekend from Stout, he is lining up everything and knocking it down exactly how he should. Seen limited mistakes out there, and I mean, a thing of beauty in terms of the race yesterday leading from flag to flag.
You know, you joked about the track dryer, but we do have one out there right now.
Well, and I also saw Sebring. I mean, the track crews out here are absolutely fantastic everywhere we go, but they already have the tractors out over in the 3, 4, 5 area, cleaning the racetrack and making sure there's no standing water anywhere. This is Florida. It is very flat, and you got to make sure that the drainage is good. There's the jet dryer.
And we've got our cameras back. All right, so big kudos to all of our camera ops gutting it through this. I'm sure that's not fun out there because it's already been. I just saw a piece of debris go flying from
those.
That thing.
Yeah, they are no joke. If you've ever stood on pit road when one of those things go by, you try to find cover.
I feel like safety crews could have plenty of pranks available with those things, but But yeah, it's awesome to see that they're out there and working to try and get it back into as best condition as they can, even though it won't be fully dry. Should hopefully better.
And you say not fully dry. I mean,
sun's bearing down on it again,
and
it doesn't show from this camera angle, but yeah, by us, it's bright sunshine.
Bright sunshine, and I mean, I'm already seeing some of this moisture come off of the racetrack. Now, I'm from the Pacific Northwest. When it rains, it stays around. I am not a Florida boy where it rains 1 minute and then all of a sudden it's dry the next. So this is new to me for sure.
I'm a Midwesterner. I'm used to these sudden rainstorms, if I'm honest, but it's it'll be interesting to see. And the other thing about all this is that the humidity is probably feeling absolutely miserable out there right now. But drivers are all having to deal with the same. We've got some more storm coming towards us, we're hearing, and this is some of it. On this angle?
The best way that I can describe this is that the storm has been moving from the turn 13 towards turn 17, right? So that's kind of the direction the storm is moving. So that's where we're looking off. And I mean, even directly in front of us, I still see this cloud growing massively. I hear the Cup cars already starting up.
Yes, we have gone to full course yellow, so they're being released now. And that should mean that we're going to get back racing. This is great news. It might take a minute. I don't know that we'll get those 15 minutes you were predicting earlier. Maybe something more like 10, since we will have to take a lap. And there's also no telling, they may want to give them more than just the one out lap behind the safety car before they release them, so drivers can get information on how the track feels.
100%. I would not be surprised if we do at least one extra lap around the safety car, just so the drivers can actually feel out where those puddles are. And if you ask me, lap number one, go splash all those puddles out of the way as soon as you can, right? If there's one that you see out there that is a potential danger, you go drive over that thing on the out lap so that way you get it out of the way.
Yeah, and we saw there, that was the outside of Turn Mall that we were looking at, and there was quite a bit of standing water on the very far outside. Now, hopefully nobody's getting to that position, but yeah, it will have some treacherous spots without a doubt. Drivers already trying to warm those tires.
I think the best way to judge the moisture level is look at the moisture coming off of the tires right now, especially as our leader Stout is kind of going back and forth. It's not necessarily putting a lot of heat in the tire, but you can see a little bit of that moisture coming off of the racetrack, and that tells me, yes, it is still a wet condition.
Yeah, and Stout comes from racing over in Europe as well, which tends to often have a little bit more wet racing than we sometimes have here in the States. So I wonder if this is his experience kind of coming out. And now we're starting to see a few other drivers kind of imitate him, so I think they're watching and learning.
And to go to your point or your question, it depends really on the region you grow up in.
True.
Right? Do you have a racetrack that has a lot of rain? Because usually when you grow up in an area, you're going to a specific racetrack, and if it's a rainy region, then yes, you get that experience. However, most of the time racing is done in the summertime, right? In dry conditions. So it could be that people have zero rain experience even coming into a weekend like this.
There are a few that have gotten to experience this in the Sprint Challenge before, so I know there are those that have some under their belt, but you're right, we have some drivers that are new since this is the first step on the Porsche ladder. And this, I had made the metaphor coming in that, of school and being a test out there. This is the pop quiz, if you will, that the drivers will now have to hope they have the knowledge from the classes so far.
I'm just kind of watching everything here on pit lane as our safety car lights are still on. We still have, call it a handful of cars here on pit lane. Just saw DePaolo roll out. I see also the 253 here of Mike Cobb rolling out as well. So I guess my question is, are these cars going out just a little bit later on their rain tires, or are they just kind of taking a little bit of a breather here, seeing how bad those conditions were with everybody out on the track?
That is a good question. It is up to the driver if they feel confident to go out. But that makes me wonder because, like I said, they were supposed to be released in order. So if you hesitate, at what point are you told, nope, you've had your time and the decision had to be made now, you're going to get passed over, you lose track position. And one thing you don't want to lose in wet weather racing is track position. That is a huge puddle there.
Wow. Wow. So that's the standing water. Let's sit right here because Frank is about to drive through that section of the racetrack. Let's see if we can see it on the surface here because that looked like a large, call it crossing of water.
Yeah.
That is a very tricky section of racetrack. It looks to be
So
right
fast.
at turn-in of what is turn 15 down there. So I think that they're probably going to take at least one more lap under the safety car condition.
I would think so. It did appear, as you mentioned, that the lights are still on, and I'm seeing the last of those cars try to catch up to the back of the field. They may want to try to give them an opportunity to get in line before we get going. 11 minutes left. It is truly going to be a sprint if we do get going before this is over. And I'm hopeful for that, but that is ultimately up to race control. They will know best on if it is safe enough to go racing, which is kind of the end call on this one, is the safety factor. Because the cars now have the wet tires. They theoretically should be good to go and able to handle the wetness. It's just if there's enough tire to handle the water that has entered the racetrack.
My competitor brain right now is telling me to get the wet tires as hot as you possibly can. The struggle with wet tires is that when you overheat them, they tend to degrade, right? However, we just don't have the time to overheat these Yokohama rain tires. So the hotter you get them right now, the more ready they're going to become the green flag race time. And who knows if you've got 3% more grip or if you've got 25% more grip than somebody else who hasn't gotten them up to temperature, that could be a deciding factor in your finishing position today.
Now I'm double checking on the rules in this series because I believe there was a point at which they will turn off the light. So I'm just going to see if I could dig that up. And I want to say it was turn 16, but don't quote me on that.
And usually they try to designate it so that way the field at least has time to bunch up. So that kind of 15, 16 area makes sense. However, I do feel that race control will let everybody know even earlier than that if they can.
Okay, safety car lights out by turn 16. Yes, so if they're still on by then we keep going around one more time. But hopefully they'll be off by that point. Now, this looks a lot better. This is right across the way from us into turn 7.
Yeah, I hear you, but look at the tires, look at the surface area, and the cars are still kicking up the water. So, yes, it's not puddles like we saw over in that 15-16 complex. However, it is far from dry.
I was trying to look through, and where did Musial Jr. go? Because remember, he was 5th initially when the yellow flag came out. I don't see him in our time and in scoring tower. He's down in 31st, it looks like, and I think he's still in pit lane.
Every team is a little bit different with how they prepare for the weekends. And I'm not saying that this is the case of a specific team or another team, but it's been a beautiful weekend. It could be as simple as not having rain tires.
We're hearing that neither of those cars has managed to return to the track, so they may have elected to hold out on this one. For some drivers, it won't be worth it to try and risk your equipment to go racing, and that is completely their prerogative, so I don't blame them if they choose to maybe sit out the rest of the race. But this does give a good chance for drivers like Melito, for French, to get some good results today. I believe.
Lights are out.
Ooh, nice catch on that. Yes, so we are getting ready to go racing. Luke French, I believe, told us that he was looking for top 5s here this weekend, and he is currently sitting in 5th. So he'll have a quick burst of racing to try and achieve that goal. He's in the spot now, but up at the front, Carl Stout ahead of Jacques Amazi for your top 2 in the Pro-Ams, with Smith and Treffert, your top 2 in the Masters.
And look at what Stout is doing. He is trying to warm up those tires as much as possible. I'd be dragging the brakes as well, just trying to get whatever heat I possibly can into those tires. And then something else we haven't even talked about, Stout's not going to have to deal with it, but what about the spray from second on back? These tires pump a ton of water.
I was going to mention that, and I was going to say I could ask you about what that's going to be like, but I think if we get any onboards, the best way is to show the onboards, just to really get across how difficult it is. And safety car has given control over to Stout as we are on board with Hutter. And this is Ammon. This is before they get up to speed, mind you. Once they get racing, it's going to be just a wall of spray hitting the windscreen. Green flag is already out, and it's a good jump there from Stout. He gets himself well clear of Giacomazzi as Siegel is chasing behind, trying to see if he can take second place away. A little bit of change of position farther down, and it looks like Hutter has chosen to come into pit lane from what we're seeing. Someone going a little bit wide back there. Not enough grip down through turn one.
And this is the tiptoe phase here. How fast can you go in these wet conditions? I see Riley Giacomazzi has actually fallen all the way back to what is 7th place overall, so there must have been something happening in the 1-2-3 complex.
I think he was the one that went wide down at turn one, and he's a driver that's a little bit new here. As we got a bunch of them into the wall. That actually looks like out of turn 16.
Correct. This was cars probably trying to catch the field coming to the green flag that weren't packed up yet. So that's multiple cars over there on driver's right-hand side as we watch these cars file their way through turn number 7. Squeeze that throttle I was picking up what you were thinking, because if we could, right, if we could get back before that timer reaches 0, there's a potential that we could do that +1 lap under green flag.
I don't think they want to hustle the cars. Yeah, we're hearing that they are going to throw the white under yellow, so we will wrap this one up behind the safety car. We like to tease our safety car driver, Drew, that when we end under yellow, he gets to win a race. We've often joked about putting stickers on the car to denote how many races he's won. This will be the first one this weekend, which is honestly a good thing that we haven't really. In fact, I don't think we saw the safety car in the first 3 races.
Here. Correct.
Here, yes.
Yes. When we were back in Phoenix, we had a couple of full course yellows under that USA West
series,
Sprint Challenge series. But here at Sebring, no, I think that this is the first laps that Drew has led here. I wonder if he's nervous out front in these rain conditions.
Drew does dirt racing. He
motorcycle stuff.
He knows what he's doing out there. And there we get the white flag being waved at the field. So officially 1 to go and finishing under yellow. But that's, wow. I mean, a great testament to the drivers showing up prepared this weekend, that it took the weather to give us, even just a safety car in the races themselves this weekend. Otherwise, despite a few incidents out on track, they kept it lean and green.
And you compare that to the start of the 2025 season, this is a much cleaner get going of our season here in 2026. So, yeah, I kind of back up what you're saying there. And unfortunately, we didn't get the green flag here today, but it was the weather that caused it. And like I said at the beginning of the show, everybody's in the same boat out there.
Certainly should be just a couple more minutes here as they work their way out of turn 5 now down to Gurney Bend. And yeah, you can see a lot of the puddles off the track as well out in the grass. But it does kind of look like it is drying quite a bit over on this section.
Yeah, it's this Florida weather. I think just because it's so warm, it really just kind of evaporates this water right off of the racetrack. It's pretty incredible. Look at that shot. It looks dry down there at the apex of 7.
I was just trying to see who this is. Car 97 ordered, told to be reordered behind 223. And that would be Lapp and Schmitz. So if you see that on the tower down to 24th and 25th, those 2 cars should change positions. As I guess that may have changed before they or after they threw the yellow. But in these sorts of scenarios, usually it's that the yellow was thrown and it was hard to tell who was ahead of who, and they just tell the cars what order they're supposed to be in. So there's nobody passing under caution. That is just a procedural thing. But got to give credit to Matt Smith as well as Stout, both of them withstanding what was no doubt stressful for each of them, and they held on to the lead.
Great job, really, from everybody to keep it clean It is not easy to keep a race car on the racetrack in these sorts of conditions, especially when it downpours and you're on those slick tires. Trust me, I have been in that situation, and I have also been in a wall in that situation too.
Very true. I mean, we've seen a couple cars do that. In fact, in this race, we can't stress how hard this is. Mother Nature threw all of these drivers a curveball, and for the most part, we've come out with shining colors, with just a couple finding themselves victim to the rain here today, especially at this corner coming out of Le Mans. But just one more turn to go through Sunset Bend, and Stout gets to go 2 for 2.
And it's so drastic. Look at this side of the racetrack, right? At 7, we were commenting it looked completely dry, but then you get out onto the back straightaway here, and this proves why you shouldn't be on dry tires in these sorts of conditions, even when it is a drying racetrack. Look at all the spray made by those wonderful Yokohama tires.
This is at pacing speed, too. That's amazing. Imagine if they were going fast enough to truly let those wet tires work. And I don't think our camera would really be able to even see much in that situation. Out of the final turn here for Carl Stout. He may be young, he may be a bit newish to racing, but he has shown himself to be an amazing force and an adaptable force, as he'll win in the dry in race 1, but he'll win in the wet here in race 2 at Sebring.
Tricky conditions, and Stout prevails. I also see Matt Smith claiming our Masters class victory there, and 4th overall with Todd Treffert there, 2nd Masters position.
Siegel and Melito getting podiums, Treffert and Bowden as well managing to finish on that podium. So here's your order. Stout with the win, Siegel finishing P2, Melito in 3rd. Smith is going to be your winner in the Masters there in 4th overall, with Treffert behind him in 2nd in Masters. McGovern was 4th in class but 6th on the road in the overall, with Bowden being the last of your podium finishers there in the Masters in 7th. For the overall, Jacques Amasi was 8th, Fenech was 9th, and French 10th, with Ammon in 11th, Womack P12, and Vitiello 13th. Then it was McGovern 14th and Dusek in 15th. Javier Ripoll Jr., P16 for him, Scalzo down in 17th, and Hutter did get back out on the track. It looks like he will be scored as 18th, McCaig 19th, and Johnson at 20th. Cobb, Monte, Leathers, Schmitz, Lapp, Groombridge, Chiacchetti, Neal, and Shermer down to 29th. And then DePaulo, Musial Jr., and Musial Sr. Electing not to finish the race, along with Willingham, DeJesus, and Gardner. We'll have podiums after this, and we will see you for the Endurance Challenge later this weekend.